Well, I think we'll get started. We may add a few more people here, and then we are going to record the program and then email that out to our members along with a link and some additional information specifically tied to the program, and then with our partner Commuter Services and one of the opportunities they have. So to kind of kick things off, I want to welcome everybody. My name is Pat McQueenie. I am the president of the Eden Prairie Chamber of Commerce and excited for this program. It's always nice to get an update on things that are happening in our community. And for those of you who have been out and about during our COVID-19 pandemic, you'll know that there's construction going on, heavy construction in Eden Prairie as it relates to Southwest LRT. And then we have some good updates that we'll get from Southwest Transit, our own bus service serving the Eden Prairie area with our program today. Want to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Spire Credit Union and C.H. Robinson have been strong supporters of our kind of community-based programs and this program in particular. And also want to thank Commuter Services for their sponsorship of this program as well. If you're not familiar with Commuter Services, they encourage sustainable commuting like telework, biking, and transit by offering free resources to businesses in their workforce, no matter what the size. So they are a great advocate and resource for our business community. They have a program, Telework, that has impacted organizations along the I-494 corridor, the region in the nation since March, and it looks likely to continue as COVID continues into 2021. To get an idea about how commuters and employers feel about this year's telework experiment, Commuter Services is offering a free webinar, Telework in the Current Commute, on December 3rd from noon to 1. So we encourage you to participate in that and learn what commuters see as pros and cons to telework and get an idea of how employers might incorporate telework into future return to work plans. To learn more, please visit Commuter Services website at 494corridor.org and to register for their upcoming webinar. With that, I'm going to jump into our program and have Jim Alexander start things off on an update with Southwest LRT. The program agenda, Jim's going to give us that update. Then Matt Fighton's going to talk about Southwest Transit. And then we'll save some time at the end for questions. For questions, if you have some right away, feel free to ask those via the chat feature, or we'll open it up at the very end for questions as well, and you can ask live. But feel free to type in those questions as we go through the chat feature. Just a quick introduction for Jim. If you're not familiar with Jim, he's been great and has provided us updates throughout the years, maybe even a decade or more now, Jim, as this project has been in the works. But Jim Alexander is the project director for Metro Transit's Southwest LRT project. Southwest LRT is a and some change $2 billion light rail project connecting 4 southwest suburbs to downtown Minneapolis, and obviously Eden Prairie is near and dear for our organization. And in the Central Corridor and connecting to Hiawatha LRT line as well. Prior to working on Southwest LRT, Jim was the design manager on the Central Corridor LRT project. He has also served as project manager on the delivery of the GO2 card-based regional fare collection system. And prior to joining Metro Transit, Jim was a consultant geotechnical engineer in Seattle. So, Jim, if I missed anything that you want to make sure we share, please feel free to do that. But I'll go ahead and give you control, and you can showcase your screen.
Okay, all right. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to attempt to share my screen here. How about that? Can you see my screen? Is my screen showing up okay?
Yeah, I think so. We have what I'm seeing on my screen, Jim, is the PowerPoint. First slide being Southwest green. There you go.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and get into it. I got a few slides to leave time for Matt to do his piece as well. So thanks for the intro, Pat. just have an update for you on construction. If you've looked out your window or driven down any of the roadways in Eden Prairie, you can see we're a little busy doing some work on construction. So we're going to talk about that construction and talk a little bit about light rail vehicles and development opportunities and get into outreach. So the first piece I really want to, back in September, this is Chair Zelli in the center there, Commissioner Callison to his right, and I'm to his left there. There we're holding the full funding grant agreement from the FTA, the Federal Transit Administration. We got that signed on the 14th of December, and that was a huge, huge milestone for the project. About $929 million agreement that we have with the feds to make us fully funded for that $2 billion amount on the project. So just a significant milestone. We've been kind of doing a lot of work in the background trying to get that to happen. Now we're done with that. So I'm guessing that a lot of you are familiar with the project, but I'll go over some fundamentals here. We're currently scheduled to open in 2023, 14.5 miles, 16 stations that ends out of Southwest Station. We're going to commingle with Len's group out of Southwest Station there with his bus activity. And this will provide a single trip downtown over into St. Paul on the Green Line. This will essentially be of the Green Line once it's all said and done in operations, and then you can make a transfer to the Blue Line to get down to the mall and to the airport. It's kind of a timeline that we've been working under currently in that heavy construction, which you can see out anywhere you look in Eden Prairie. Our budget, we've been essentially running off this particular pie for quite some time, but now we can say all funds are committed, which is a really good thing. So I just want to take a moment to thank local partners, particularly the county. They're really instrumental in stepping up with the local funding. Most of the local funding, there is funding from the cities as well, as you can see there. And the DOT, they play a heavy role in our project, but really want to do a shout out to Len and Matt on the Southwest Transit. We have a lot of activity out at that campus, and they've had to make some they had to make some changes in terms of their operations to accommodate our construction. And I feel like we're doing pretty well playing in the sandbox, same sandbox with each other. But it's been going pretty well so far. So appreciate Southwest Transit stepping up to work with us on our construction endeavors here. And we have the couple of park board districts, and then Riley Purgatory 9 Mile within Eden Prairie there for the watershed districts. So I think I've shown this slide in the past where it's just kind of the evolution of this project, where we start with underground utilities, and we're now in the structures piece, and eventually we'll get to that testing and get into revenue operations. Utilities, we're actually doing really good on this project. We had nearly 950 conflicts on that 14.5 miles, and we're well on our way to getting those resolved within our budget. Very pleased about that. That's a component that can be really dangerous to these type of projects, that you have a lot of unknowns anytime you have something underground. So construction scope, got a few contracts out there. This is London McCrossin, the joint venture, just under 800 million for that. And they're the ones doing most of the work out there that you see. It's the 16 stations. We have 44 structures, a lot of big bridges in Eden Prairie. And we have 15 at grade LRT crossings. Kind of back up to that 640 lineal feet. I was just giving a little tour to some of our council members and our chair at Southwest Transit. We have nearly 27 miles of piling at Southwest Station alone, with all the features we're doing. So a lot of piles on this project. 120 retaining walls, and then the track piece there as well. So the second large contract we have is Aldridge Parsons. So what this is going to be kind of a follow-on to the civil contract. These folks install all the communications and the power pieces to make the train running. There's also a testing integration part of their contract, just under 200 million there. And just want to mention we are going to be expanding our Franklin ONF facility in Minneapolis. We're going to be expanding things to look more like this. That contract's well underway by LS Black Constructors, and that's going to be able to accommodate the 27 vehicles that Siemens is providing for us out in Sacramento. We've already received 5 vehicles so far under that contract of a total of 27. We'll get 2 more here in another week or so. So that contract is moving along as well. So I just have some slides. Some are renderings to show what things are going to look like, and others are showing what it's looking like right now. This is an image down at the lower piece here is the new parking ramp that we're going to be building. You can see off in the distance, Southwest Transit existing parking structure. We're essentially marrying up a 450 stall ramp that will connect to that existing ramp. I think about 928 or so stalls for that. So it'll act as one park and ride. And you can, off to the left of that that rendering at the bottom is where the platform is, and you can kind of see what the inside of the platform looks like, where lens buses will come up to the platform there onto the left, and we'll have LRT on the right there. And off in the distance beyond the bus there's an indoor waiting area that we'll have as well. That's under construction. So this is what it looks like today. A lot of cranes, a lot of activity down here. You can see the semblance of the structure starting to form itself for that ramp, and that you can kind of see those pieces sticking off to the right. That's essentially where the platform is going to go. The waiting area is off to the right of this image, and this is essentially being taken from, I think, probably the second level of the existing parking garage there. But you can see a lot of activity going on right now. As we move eastward, you can see the Elevate apartments just off to the left, and this is Prairie Center Drive Bridge, where you can see technology and Prairie Center Drive running through there. We're currently putting deck onto that bridge, so this is much further along than this image is. It's back in the sunny days. We're a little different out there today with the snow coming down, but project's moving along pretty well. This will skip over the Eden Prairie Town Center Station. We don't necessarily have photos for that right now, just not a lot of exciting things at this moment. There's grading going on, but the contractor will be starting to put in grade beams and structure for that station that's located between this location 494 and that bridge. But this is essentially a new LRT bridge that goes over 494 along Flying Cloud. That project is well underway. And I'll talk about traffic here in a bit. I got a couple of slides because I think you might be interested in traffic situation, but I'll go through the structures first. This is further to the east as we leave Flying Cloud and we go along 212 over the Valley View area. This is the Valley View Bridge, LRT bridge that comes into the Flying Cloud area, where we have this bridge structure that takes us from 212 and ends up making our way over into the Golden Triangle area, which is rendering here of what that station is going to look like at Golden Triangle. And here's what it looks like a few days ago. Structure is coming along very nicely. Kind of hard to tell, but off in the distance, off to the right there, we are building a structure. You can see the cranes off the way as we get up to Shady Oak Road there, and eventually over to 212, where we are now putting some piers in the middle of in that median area, and this will make its way onto the west side of 212, where we've just, if you can imagine in the foreground, we're just going over Shady Oak, and we'll land ourselves at the City West Station at near 62 and 212. So last image for construction, this is the Trunk Highway 62 off in the distance. This is a tunnel. This image was taken quite, earlier this fall. We're quite a bit longer than that. We pretty much have this structure built. This is the east segment of the LRT tunnel that will go under 62. So right now the traffic has been shifted to the south to accommodate this construction. Next season, we'll be moving that traffic north to be on top of this structure so the contractor can do the west segment. And we currently have a single lane on the eastbound on 62 and the ramp from Shady Oak to 62 is closed for the time being. So in terms of access, we have a number of sidewalks closed in the Prairie Center Drive technology area. We're looking to get those open here very soon. We've also got the Town Center Place, which is a new roadway name. It's formerly called Eden Road all the way up to Flying Cloud, but that segment from that north-south Eden Road segment over to Flying Cloud is looking to be open hopefully before Thanksgiving. We're currently gearing up for that. And then as we progress up Flying Cloud, we've got a lot of disruption right now with construction on the west side and traffic on the east side. We're looking to get those lanes opened up here, hopefully before Thanksgiving as well. What's really left is getting some signaling done, and we need to get that in place and make sure it's safe before we open things up for traffic. Similarly, as we head up to the north, West 70th Street is closed right now. We're looking to get that open here in the next couple of weeks. And then we have some roadways that are lanes that are closed on Shady Oak Road up at the top of the map that we're looking to get those opened as well and before Thanksgiving. So a lot of activity is going to be happening now. As we exit this construction season, we'll be leaving Flying Cloud open for traffic both ways in both sides of the roadway. But then we get into the spring, we'll be moving the traffic off to the west side and having the same kind of construction we were doing on that we're currently doing. We'll do that on the east side of that roadway. So Pat, I don't know, you want me to just go through the whole PowerPoint first and then take questions afterward, or how would you like to gear that?
Yeah, I think what we'd like to do is get through the PowerPoint. We can see if there's an immediate question or not, and then move to Matt's presentation and see if there's some final questions after that. So.
Okay, all right, real good. Well, I think it's always good to talk about DB and workforce. I'd say the LMJV is doing a pretty good job right now with the DBE piece, just about 20%, where our goal was set at 16%. This is as of August. Workforce has continued to be, frankly, a little bit of a challenge for us. Persons of color, Indigenous folks were the goal within the Hennepin counties, 32%, women 20%. And as of that August date, we're at the 21 and 8%, as you can see there. We do continue to have a monthly meeting with to talk about DBE and workforce and to really emphasize to get those numbers ramped up. A little bit about light rail vehicles. I can't remember if we've talked about this in the past, but I got a couple of slides to talk about the interior here. But here's that contract I mentioned, 27 vehicles, and like I said, we've received up to 305, so 5 vehicles, and 306 and 07 are on their way right now from Sacramento. And just want to get you familiar with how we look at these cars as they're put together. I want to talk about this middle C section and the work we did back in the day with our transit advisory accessibility group within the council there, and essentially looked at what can we do to modify for accessibility. And what we came up with, you can see the Type 2 design, which is the existing that we run today. Not a lot of room in that middle car between the seats, and what we did is we essentially moved the seats outward so we could accommodate a wheelchair through there. And I think that was a good move for everybody to do that. We are losing a few seats, but I think overall it's a better design. And I think maybe some interest, folks, what's currently going on. Ridership just across the nation, probably the world for that fact, is down. Our services is down quite a bit, as you can see here. And we are doing what we can to keep that ridership up, but it's frankly been a big challenge with COVID going on. But we really try to focus on keeping our trains clean, and we encourage our go-to card system. Pat mentioned that's one of the projects I started working on when I first came over to transit, and face coverings are required. So we do design our stations with safety and security in mind, with cameras, and know that we've been coordinating with city staff pretty extensively. We've been coordinating with Eden Prairie Police and Fire, And so that was really a kind of an ongoing process during the design evolution of things. And as we start getting in closer to revenue service, we'll have more engagement as we start talking about what to expect and what's going to happen with revenue service once we get to that point. And then we keep close contact with our police department as well as we've been looking at this design, and that's just been an ongoing process as we get underway here. Development opportunities, there's been some really big numbers on this project. Admittedly, Pat mentioned I've been on this I started on this project back in 2011, and we've had some challenges with schedule, and but the developers out there are kind of saying, I think this project's going to happen, and I think they're right. We're now getting well underway, but there's just been a lot of activity even before we started construction out there. It's been really impressive to see here the numbers here, and I think this will be recorded so everybody will have access to this. But kind of locally, here's some numbers here. Kind of locally, I wanted to talk about Elevate here with a big success story. Elevate was going to be constructed after we built our facility. Unfortunately, it didn't work that way, and so we had to really do a lot of coordination as we were working on pile driving. I mentioned the 27 miles of pile. We had to coordinate with these folks and others pretty extensively as we're doing that work. We're now done with that, luckily, and at least in this area, we're still driving piles over Southwest Transit area. But this is a kind of a neat development where they designed around our guideway, if you will, as that bridge wraps around on the other side of this structure. And you can see the numbers here: 222 housing, 52 affordable, and really a nice facility. Communication outreach. Just kind of some of the stats here. I did want to give a shout out to Kate Meredith. Appreciate that they are helping us with posting our construction information. We do have a posting typically every week, although we'll go into the winter time where we'll do it probably bi-weekly because construction frankly starts slowing down a little bit. But you can see the numbers here. Maybe some interest, the hotline number 675 since we started in May of 19. I would say about, I had some numbers here. About 142 of those, around 150, I should say, I don't want to be that exact, but around 150 have been from Eden Prairie. They have kind of slacked off since 2019. We've seen about half of what we saw in 2019, but you can see the numbers for everything else here. And of course, you can always get on our site, SWLRT.org, to see information. We have some renderings, so we have a lot of images. We have some videos of the various parts of the project for you to take a look at if you're interested. With that, that's my spiel today. So I'll be glad to take any questions.
So I'm going to turn it over to you, Matt. Matt Fighton is one of our chamber members here locally, serves on our public policy committee, and has been great in giving us some updates on workloads and things that they're working on. He's the director of operations at Southwest Transit, started there in 2010. He has a master's of urban and regional planning from the Humphrey School of Public Affairs and a BA in political science from the University of Minnesota. And he's here to give us an update as well. So I'm going to try this here, Matt. I'm hoping this works, and see if you can share your screen and see if that all works out.
Okay, thanks, Pat, for having us here, and thank you, Jim, for the update. That was interesting. And as Jim was saying, we've done a lot of work with Jim's office. They've been very good to work with. Like you said, we've had to co-mingle quite a bit, especially at the Southwest Station site. And Jim and his group have been great to work with. A lot of moving parts, and I think it's been awfully smooth. So I just want to give a shout out to Jim before I get into our update here with what's going on with Southwest Transit. So just a quick overview of Southwest for those who may not be as familiar with us. We are the public transit provider for Eden Prairie, Chaska, Chanhassen, as well as under contract with the cities of Carver and Victoria. those two communities, we provide some Southwest Prime service, which is our demand response service. We are governed by a commission consisting of 6 individuals appointed by our 3 member cities, so Eden Prairie, Chaska, Chanhassen. Out in those communities, each has 2 representatives, one of which has to be elected, the other is appointed by the city. And then finally, our last representative is actually a rider representative that we select from our ridership that serves on our commission as well. We are suburban providers, so we are just like Metro Transit is in terms of public transit serving our communities. We were established by the state legislature in 1983, actually, or the ability, I should say, to create suburban providers was established in 1983. This is due to the fact that the existing structure at that time was not responsive to meeting the needs of growing suburbs. So people at, communities at that time were paying in property taxes and not really receiving the level of service that they felt they should have been getting. So that's what allowed all these different transit providers in the region you see to come about, and Southwest Transit is one of those, and we were formed in 1986. So pre-COVID, we were up to operating approximately 160 trips per day with 75 buses. The majority of our service brings commuters to downtown Minneapolis and the University of Minnesota. That represents about, I'd say about 80% of our overall ridership. We've been recognized as a national leader in innovation, technology, transit-oriented development. In fact, the Southwest Station site that Jim was alluding to was actually one of the first, at least suburban transit-oriented developments in the nation. We introduced one of the nation's first micro-transit operations, micro-transit being kind of using the Uber and Lyft model for providing what was formerly known as dial-a-ride service. Southwest Prime is our version of that, and we were actually one of the first in the nation to provide those types of services. We have we're the provider of choice to many special events. The big one that most of our community members know us for is the State Fair, but we also provide service to sporting events, Twins, Vikings, Gophers football, and certainly some large concerts as well when they're here, and we look forward to doing that again in the near future, hopefully. We have over $60 million in assets, and again, prior to COVID, we annually provided over about 1.2 million rides. But I couldn't really give an update about Southwest Transit without discussing where we are at currently during the COVID-19 pandemic. As Jim alluded to, the transit industry has been hit significantly as a result of the pandemic, and particularly the express market, which we predominantly operate, was hit quite hard. So our ridership is down still about 90% from what it was pre-pandemic. Initially, it was even more than that. We've recouped a few of those riders, but most, again, in these types of services are predominantly commuters, and most of them are working from home. So there's really no need for them to be on a bus at the moment. So we still see those that ridership to be significantly lower than normal. That being the case, we obviously had to take some actions in our world to address the pandemic. We unfortunately had to furlough or eliminate over 50% of our workforce. We had to reduce our service to really, just address the loss in ridership by over 60%. The reason that number is not 90% is because we need to make sure that we still have space, adequate space on the vehicles to allow for social distancing for the riders that we do have. We received some stimulus funds through the federal government through the CARES Act, which certainly helped. That was approximately 20% of our annual revenue, but still, as you can see, cuts still had to be made. And we have taken numerous safety measures to increase customer and employee confidence to make sure that we have a safe riding experience for everybody. And I have a couple pictures here. The one on top there is actually of our ramp in Chaska. That just kind of gives you an idea of what the days look like these days in our parking ramps. Normally that whole level would be completely filled, and that's just the reality of what we're in today. I do want to take the opportunity to share a quick video that we put together just showing how we're addressing the COVID pandemic. So I'll go ahead and share that, and hopefully you enjoy it.
Hello, I'm Len Simich, CEO of Southwest Transit. I'm speaking today as we deal with one of the most serious pandemics ever to impact the health and welfare of our country, COVID-19, otherwise known as the coronavirus. Once this pandemic is controlled, I want you to be assured Southwest Transit will be there for all your commuting needs. Our current practice of cleaning and disinfecting buses and stations will not decrease because your safety, as well as the safety of our employees, has and always will be our top priority.
Over the past several months, we've learned a vast amount about COVID-19. This has been a great learning experience for all of us. We're hyper-focused on trying to find the latest measures of protection, and we've implemented these procedures into our daily service to maximize the safety and health of our passengers and employees. Updated safety measures are constantly changing and evolving in real time, and we make it our mission to always be a step ahead. Long before our drivers walk through the door of a Southwest Transit bus, we've gone through extreme measures and taken the utmost care to make sure all of our buses and facilities are clean. Our fleet of Southwest Transit buses and prime vehicles are cleaned numerous times daily, including in between runs. At Southwest Transit, we use the latest, most state-of-the-art, professional cordless electrostatic sprayer fogging machines. These machines are designed to make the sanitizing product stick to every surface, ensuring that the bus is safe, clean, and comfortable for all of our passengers. We limit the bus capacity to 20 people or less to enable mass separation in most cases, allowing the rider their own aisle for comfort, safety, and peace of mind. When you enter a Southwest Transit bus, you'll notice a protective curtain for the drivers and our newest implementation of Southwest plexiguards between seats to protect passengers. What you won't see is the time and effort we put into disinfecting and cleaning each bus and prime vehicle to assure your safety. The air you breathe in the vehicles is also cleaned. The onboard air is cleaned by state-of-the-art filters that capture the unhealthy particles. These filters are changed out regularly to ensure the air receives the most effective filtration possible. In addition to upgraded filters, we've begun installing a state-of-the-art ion air purification system. We are one of the first transit agencies to add both row separators and an air purification system on our buses. Let's all remember that our current pandemic is a temporary inconvenience. In the interim, it's good to know that we can travel safely, comfortably, and securely on all of our Southwest Transit vehicles, getting you to work, to play, and to be with the people you love the most. Southwest Transit appreciates you following state and federal safety guidelines. Remember, masks are required inside stations, on the bus, and all of our prime vehicles. And if you forgot yours, we're happy to supply one for you.
All right, so that gives you an idea of really what we're doing to really address the pandemic from a safety perspective on our vehicles. And I just want to note, you saw in that video there was a few aerial shots of one of our stations, and that's actually the Southwest Station area that Jim showed some of those pictures of. That is no longer there, actually. So it's kind of interesting. But again, just a last slide to kind of wrap up where we're at with the COVID-19 pandemic. We're continuing reduced service with the plan, but we will be adding back trips as riders do feel more comfortable coming back and businesses open up. We're watching ridership on a daily basis, and we can act very quickly to add vehicles to the service and still ensure that social distancing. We're continuing a high level of cleaning, disinfecting on our vehicles and facilities. That happens at least once daily. At times, most buses actually receive cleaning twice, once after their morning run, and then they'll receive cleaning again after their afternoon run. We are also swapping out vehicles multiple times per day to ensure that we always have a disinfected bus out on the road. We maintain daily health employee screenings of all employees at Southwest Transit. We're continuing to look at new technologies and procedures. You saw the passenger separators on that vehicle, as well as the new air purification system on our vehicles. We're continuing to make wearing masks mandatory in all of our facilities and vehicles, and that being the case, we have masks that we provide to riders should they not have one at that time. And we're looking to reduce or eliminate any expense not deemed really critical in our current operation, looking to, really stretch the dollars as far as we can to ensure that we can keep our agency in a good position moving forward. And then lastly, you can see the picture on the bottom there. That's showing an example. We're also looking at bringing as much work as we can in-house using our in-house facility staff to do a lot of the work that may have normally been contracted out. So that's one of the main things we've been doing as well. Moving on from COVID, though, I do want to discuss, with Jim's presentation on Southwest LRT, apologies to Jim for stealing one of your pictures. I figured that might happen. But I did want to just talk about from Southwest, our perspective of Southwest LRT and how it may impact us. It was, as Jim noted, it's been a process getting to a place of agreement with the Met Council and the project office, but Jim and his group, they negotiated in good faith, and we're very appreciative of that. We finally reached an agreement adopted in December 2017. Again, we believe the agreement really meets the needs of ultimately both Southwest and the rail. I think, as Jim properly put it in his presentation, you can see that the site is being redesigned to have both the bus operations and LRT operations. We do anticipate operating our full complement of express service once, whatever that may be, after the pandemic. Some people look at them and say, well, why are you still operating buses when you have rail there? They're actually two very different services. The express is still very much geared at that downtown commuter, getting them to work as fast as possible. The rail is more of your, we'll call it standard transit service with, multiple stops. I believe it's 17, and Jim, you can correct me if I'm wrong there. 17 stops to get downtown, and it takes almost double the time that will take on the bus. So they are two very different types of services. We were certainly financially compensated for losing our offices and our station, which actually allowed us to build the facility. That's the bottom picture there is our Eden Prairie Garage facility, and the addition that was actually just recently finished. In fact, the office I'm giving this presentation in is in that area that you see in that picture. So, but we did receive other protections under the agreement as well. Once again, allowing us to operate our buses there, really being the primary, well, really we are going to be the primary bus operator at Southwest Station, and then Metro Transit will have the rail piece. Ultimately, we view LRT as a positive, something that can be complementary to our service. It really does open up some new opportunities for us, and it will help us both improve efficiencies in our existing services, look at middays, evenings, weekends, where right now the productivity of our service may not be the greatest, but we like to provide that service. Really, the rail will replace that service in a lot of ways, and then allow us to reallocate our resources to better feed the rail in those off times to make sure that people have that first mile, last mile connectivity to the rail station. So we really do view it as a complementary service to our bus service. So that being the case, we talk about all the negativity about COVID. Well, I like to kind of switch gears and talk about, well, what's next after COVID? We certainly are looking at some opportunities down the road. And as you said, the pandemic is really a temporary inconvenience at this point. So what can we do in the future moving forward? So we are looking at multiple things here at Southwest. We're looking, eventually we'll be building back our express operations. Like I said, understanding, it's going to be a new normal, but we do anticipate building back a good amount of those express operations. It gives us a new opportunity to look at new markets, particularly suburb services. I'll talk here a little bit later about 494 service we're going to be starting to the Mall of America and Airport. I believe it gives us an opportunity to build back our services in a different, smarter type of way. Really, we can start from scratch from where we were before, and I think create a more efficient and attractive service to our customers, and also better leverage some of the new technologies we have with our service, particularly the microtransit Southwest Prime services, having the first mile, last mile capabilities instead of having some small, not very well serviced local street routes throughout the cities that we serve. We feel that the Prime service is much more dynamic and also happens to be more cost effective as well. We will look at resuming special event services. I mentioned state fairs, sporting events, concerts, and then we'll look to pilot technologies like we always have at Southwest Transit. Mobility as a service is really a movement within the transportation transit world to make someone's trip with all these evolving technologies and service types as simple as possible. So really it's saying, it's kind of like, I like to say, like trip planning on steroids. So I'm at point A, I want to get to point B. What are the options I have, and what are the various services I have to get me there? So example, book a Southwest Prime ride. That'll take me to the Southwest Station, jump on the light rail, go downtown, transfer onto a different bus if I need to. That would all be able to be done in one seamless transaction. That's the goal, at least. We're also going to be looking at electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles on our service as well, which I'll touch on here in a little bit. We are going to have we actually received a regional solicitation grant award in 2018 for a 3-year demonstration service of what we're calling the Southwest Station Mobility Hub. This is planned to coincide with the opening of operations with Southwest LRT in 2023. It's going to focus on providing really a high level of first mile, last mile, multimodal connectivity, really centered there at the Southwest Station site. What that's going to consist of right now: additional Southwest Prime service, e-bikes, e-scooters, car sharing, and really any other mobility solutions that may come about over the next few years. We're going to look to incorporate that into the site to really make that as accessible as possible. We are going to be looking at autonomous demonstration, as I mentioned. We view the Golden Triangle area and Eden Prairie as being an ideal location to really look at piloting an autonomous shuttle service. I have a couple, pilot routes that we may be looking at, but the Golden Triangle really, as it stands today, is not the most walkable environment. It's rather spread out, but it does employ a lot of people, 20,000 plus jobs, almost 10 million square feet of office space. There's a reason they're bringing a rail line out here, and the Golden Triangle is a large part of that. So it's going to be important that we have the ability to circulate people within that area. And we believe it lends itself perfectly to an autonomous shuttle demonstration. So we're working with some autonomous vehicle vendors, MnDOT, the Federal Transit Administration, about some possible pilots you may see, hopefully in the near future, certainly within the next 5 years. I mentioned 494 service. We also received another grant for a service that we're hoped to start along the 494 corridor at some point next year. This is going to be providing bus service between Southwest Station and the Mall of America. And we actually amended that grant this year to include service to the airport as part of that service. So again, hoping Q3 of next year. Obviously, what happens with the pandemic will dictate some of this. But we are looking to hopefully launch some sort of limited on-demand service starting earlier this year, utilizing our Southwest Prime service so people can book rides, and we would just provide them on an as-needed basis along the corridor. So Kate, we'll certainly be in contact with you more about that in the future. Some of the services, the locations we're going to be serving as part of this, I mentioned the airport, Mall of America. We'll also look at Normandale Community College. Metro Transit's going to be opening up their Orange Line BRT, hopefully at some point next year. And then the France Avenue, Lyndale Avenue areas and others. And the service will operate on weekdays as well as Saturdays once it's at full operation. In terms of Southwest Prime and Prime MD, so for the group, the Prime MD service we have is actually our non-emergency medical transportation service that we offer, which allows people to book rides to any medical facility within our service area. And the difference between that and Southwest Prime is that you can actually schedule your rides, I believe, up to 7 days in advance on that service. So providing some peace of mind to people to make sure that they can get to their doctor appointment on time. And then when they're done with their doctor appointment, all they got to do is give us a call or use the Southwest Prime app, and that will allow them to book their return ride just like you would a normal Prime ride, and we'll be there within 20 minutes to pick you up. In terms of the Prime service, we're going to be adding an expansion into Shakopee in the near future, as well as potential other communities, and looking at allowing for scheduled rides on the Prime service itself in some sort of a limited capacity. And then finally, we are looking at electric vehicles throughout our service for both Southwest Prime and fixed route services. Most likely with where the technology is these days, the electric vehicle will probably show up on our Prime service. I put a picture of a Tesla on there because that's actually one of the vehicles we are looking at potentially implementing into our Southwest Prime service. And that vehicle does have the autonomous capability built in. Obviously, that's still evolving, depending on what you want to believe from Tesla, varying degrees of autonomous capability, but we do believe it could be a tool for us to demonstrate some of those autonomous capabilities on the Southwest Prime service as well. So we have really two avenues we're looking at autonomously: the Golden Triangle shuttle piece, and then just general autonomy within our Southwest Prime service, point-to-point service. So we think some very exciting things on the horizon for us. So despite it being a COVID time, we do see a positive future ahead of us. So with that, I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen here. See if I can take any questions.
Okay, any immediate questions for both either Matt or Jim? Jim, do have one question on kind of timeline. With construction, is construction considered to be on time and still looking at a 2023 for Southwest LRT to be up and running?
Sure. Yeah, we're taking a hard look at that. I'd say if you look along the whole alignment, out west, we're doing really well. Frankly, on the east part, we're not as far as I'd like to be, and you can kind of see that's pretty evident if you're in the Minneapolis area in particular. We're currently scheduled for 2023, but we're taking a hard look at that schedule.
And then maybe a follow-up in Eden Prairie, what's the projection for heavy construction to be completed?
Well, I think we're still looking at that 2022 timeframe, but I think as far as maybe folks might be concerned about the disruption in terms of traffic, it's going to be pretty significant again on Flying Cloud next year. 62 shouldn't be so much of a big deal. It's just shifting the roadways. I'm thinking over Eden Prairie Town Center or Eden Prairie Center Drive, where we should be clear over there. Might have to have some lane closures here and there, but and then that over by Eden Road and the town center there, I think we're looking pretty good in there because we're essentially building the guideway now on the north side of that area over by Redstone, and then on the west side of Flying Cloud, so it'll be kind of out of the way of traffic. But I'd say the biggest disruption is going to be Flying Cloud next year. We'll have a similar situation like we have today. It'll just be shifted on the other side.
Gotcha. And then Matt, with the Prime MD service, taking the doctor's appointments and that, if somebody's just outside, is it strictly you have to live within your service district and the appointment has to be in the service district, or is there some flexibility just being outside that?
Yeah, it's a good question, Pat. We do actually have a partnership with Ridgeview Medical that we are taking people to appointments in Laconia and the Ridgeview Medical facilities, as well as the ones within our service area. I believe we are going to be launching in St. Francis at Shakopee as well, in terms of the outside of our service area facilities. But that likely will be expanding as well, especially as we start providing service down the 494 corridor. But to answer your question about who can actually book the rides, yes, it is really just geared at our communities. So we'll pick up in our communities and bring people out to these medical facilities, but it's not like we're picking up someone, say, in Watertown and bringing them to Laconia. So.
Gotcha. Any final questions from our attendees? I know some great comments in the chat section here. Well, with that, I do want to thank both Matt and Jim for their time and their presentation. Very informative. Also, a thank you to our sponsors, Spire Credit Union, C.H. Robinson and Community Services. And Kate, thank you for joining us as well today. Check out their upcoming telework current commute on December 3rd from noon to 1 to learn a little bit more about services and what employees are looking at for telecommute as well. And then final thing, we are recording this program, so we'll rebroadcast this and send this out to members, and you'll be able to share that with individuals that you may know that weren't able to join us today. So with that, thank you all for being here. Enjoy a snowy afternoon and be safe. Thank you all.